MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Thank you so much for joining us right here on MBCI TV. You are watching the program The Mid-Morning Pack. It's the first day of the month of February, year 2023. What a wonderful lineup we've prepared for you in today's show. And Kagi, good to see you today.
Good morning, Mangicho. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's really appreciate to have you again on this particular program.
Yes, good morning, dear viewer, wherever you are, and welcome to the Mid-Morning Pack. This first day of February 2023, a month that we are optimistic on various issues, a month where Form 1s are expected to join the high school, and also a month where farmers in the villages are preparing to maybe prepare their farms for a long rain season. Welcome to the Mid-Morning Pack. Paul Kagi is my name.
Exactly, and quite a number of events have taken place in this past 1 week. And of course, today we have two main areas which we'll be able to look at: the commencement of junior secondary schools and also the rise or the rising cost of living. We'll be able to look at those particular areas in details. And the question that we are asking you in this particular show for today is, what is your opinion? What is your view on the commencement of junior secondary schools? What is your opinion, or what is your view on the commencement of junior secondary school? You can give us your feedback. You can begin giving us your response on our platforms. We have the short code that is 23814. We also have our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also we have our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. Drop a comment or two on this particular area. I know quite a number of us are affected by this. So many of our parents have taken their children to the junior secondary schools, and of course you have one or two in relation to that. You can help us know what is it that you have, what is your opinion on how this particular program has started. And of course, later on, we'll be able to look at the rising cost of living. And we'll have a guest, that is Engineer Victor Ngatia, later on to help us to look at these particular issues in details. But before that, quite a number of other things have happened so far in this particular week. Bonakagi.
Yes. I think one of the issues that is coming up this week is the issue of the Chebukati, which happened lately,
yes,
whereby the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, alleged that Chebukati had paid him a visit in his home during the during the announcement of the election, which Chebukati has categorically said Odinga must provide a proof that he did visit his home. If not that way, he is going to sue him. So we are waiting for the response from Odinga himself.
Exactly, and this shows that we are not yet off the hook when it comes to matters to do with 2022 general election. We've got Kenyans who thought that we've already moved on, but it's like the ghost of 2022 elections will be with us for quite some time.
True, 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 true. Even the president himself has been responding strongly regarding to allegations of the Odinga side concerning the 2022 elections.
And of course, in relation to that, we've had those rallies that have been taking place. We now have like 2 rallies that have been organized by the Azimio la Umoja.
Yes.
And a number of Kenyans have also been concerned that these rallies are going to raise political tension. Others are actually even worried that they are going to interfere with the cohesion that we've been witnessing in the country. There are quite a number of leaders. I know of one MCA from Korogosho in Nairobi who has already been summoned by the DCI to actually make some statement in relation to some of the comments that he made during one of those particular rallies. Quite unfortunate.
Yes, and of course, when you look at the history of Kenya, when it comes to Mr. Raila himself, when he is doing these rallies, you cannot just wish him away. They can easily incite political temperatures in the country. It has happened there before, and therefore, even right now, if they are not properly monitored, they can really heighten the political temperatures in the country. But as the government is saying, the most important thing, whatever is happening, the peace of the country must be guaranteed.
Of course, even as we've said, there is the freedom of assembly, the freedom of information, but it's also very important to be able to see where is the limit, or at what point do we now make the boundaries between freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of information, and also talking about incitement and making some of these statements that might actually interfere, that might actually cause a lack of peace in the country.
And one question, Mangicho, I'm asking myself regarding to these rallies is if the Odinga side rallies are going to be accelerated, there could be a possibility whereby even the Kenya Kwanza would be forced also to hold their rallies to counter what the other side is doing. Mm-hmm. But also, my question also is the government maybe gearing towards stopping these rallies?
Yes.
And if it does, what are the repercussions?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And of course, you know, the other side of the opposition has also been saying that there is no way you can stop our rallies, because we've also seen the side of the president. Most of the Sundays, actually I think virtually all Sundays, after they have, or after they go for the services in the churches, after that, they have like a session or a meeting. And of course, now the other side is also saying that this is what you're doing on the other side, so there is no way you can deny us also an opportunity to meet our people.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, and also we have something else which came out, I think, yesterday. The issue of banditry is really troubling the government and even the peace of the country. Mm-hmm. We know in the northern corridor we are experiencing a serious security threat. And by yesterday, one serious incident happened, which is very irritating, whereby bandits really invaded a school, burned the school, and the children are at home. Mm-hmm. Even the residents from that area in Turkana County, they left their homes because of the insecurity. It's something that everybody is wondering, what is this all about banditry? Who are these people? Mm-hmm. Are they strong than the government? Is the question every person is asking in that region. And we are expecting the CS for Internal Security, Kindiki, to be able to respond to this. And we hope is going to make it to be able to manage those bandits.
Yes, and I think, as you've said, I think when you talk about banditry and incidents of banditry in our country, I think they've reached a level whereby maybe the nation will even wonder, is it that the government is now unable to contain this particular menace, because this has now become perennial disaster in our country. And of course, other people are worried that is it only that the government is actually issuing threats, but there is nothing that they can do. How comes these people, these bandits, have never been brought to book? Is it that we are not yet, or we don't have what it takes? We don't have the capacity. Is it that we don't have enough personnel from our security forces to actually contain them? What is it that needs to be done? Because we've even had the minister saying, or the cabinet secretary, putting it very, very frankly, that those who are engaged or those who are involved in this particular banditry, they are going to be met with the full force of law. But then, what is it that is happening?
Yes, Mangicho, and my view is this is not the first time we are seeing these bandits. They were there during Kenyatta's regime, Kibaki's regime, Moi's regime, and Uhuru's regime. I think the current government need to come up with a different approach to be able to manage them, to control them, or maybe to arrest them from that area, because they seem to have mastered the art the government uses every season to be able to manage them. So if I master your art of fighting me, I don't think you can be able to manage me any longer. So they need to come up with a unique way to be able to manage them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very true. And there was another story that happened in Nakuru County yesterday. A number of officials were arrested by the EACC in relation to graft.
Yes. And it is not the first time again whereby we are hearing officials from the county government being arrested by the EACC regarding to misappropriation of the county fund or abuse of office. I think EACC need to become more lethal in terms of dealing with the guys who are misappropriating the funds, the public funds.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, these things will be coming. And yesterday we were speaking somewhere, and one of the things that drew my attention is whereby you know the kind of penalty you can be given for a certain crime. Mm-hmm. And once you know the kind of penalty, you can decide to misbehave.
Yeah.
Because you have organized yourself in a way, you can mismanage the funds, mm-hmm. you can maybe abuse the office, and you can prepare yourself to pay the penalty mm-hmm. because you are in a good position to do so. Mm-hmm. I think EACC need to become more lethal towards the officers who are mismanaging public resources.
Yeah, and of course this has also raised a lot of concern, especially at a time when most of our counties are actually grappling with what we can call pending bills. And of course, we also know there are quite a number of counties whose projects have stalled, and the issue of graft, seems to still continue to be a major concern in most of our counties. And of course, we want to see a situation whereby they're not just being arrested, but they can be taken to court, and there will be enough evidence so that at least we can be able to see people being jailed, people being made to actually pay for the crimes that they've actually committed when they were in office.
And I think the most I think sensitive thing they can do is not only to jail someone who has been found to be guilty, but also to recover any money or resources that you have really moved away with.
Sure.
Because if you don't take that money back, it doesn't bring any sense in fighting against any graft.
Exactly.
But before I end, you have talked about the issue of the stalled project, which was a major issue the whole of this week, whereby counties are neglecting projects from their predecessors, which I think is making the counties to lose a lot of money. Can you imagine maybe the previous governor had like 5 major projects, they were halfway, the new governor comes in and decides to start his own project. What happens to those projects, to those resources?
Sure.
Maybe the governor doesn't come in next term. He has 5 projects. They were halfway. So by the time we are going to the third governor, we have more than 10 or 15 stalled projects,
yes,
which were to help public.
And that means that we need to come up with very stringent measures and, of course, systems to ensure that the projects that have been started should actually be completed, regardless of which governor is coming to office, because at the end of the day, those projects are not merely for the governor who is in charge, but for the masses in those particular counties. So much for that. I think at this particular juncture, we can welcome our guest to actually get into the nitty-gritties of our discussion. Remember, you're still watching the Mid-Morning Pack right here on MBCI TV. The question that we are asking you so far, what is your view? What is your opinion on the commencement of junior secondary schools? Continue giving us your comments on our 23814 short code platform. And also catch us live on our Facebook page, MBCI TV. MBCI TV Official, that is our YouTube platform. And we'll be glad to also see what are some of your responses as far as our conversation this morning is concerned. Bwana Engineer Ngatia, a political and governance analyst. Karibu sana, good to see you in the year 2023.
Asante sana, happy new year.
Happy 2023.
Happy 2023.
How have you been?
I've been all right.
Yes.
Doing my usual.
Okay.
Kazi kama kawaida.
Kazi kama kawaida.
Yeah.
That's so good. And of course, we've touched quite a number of issues. Maybe you can give us your reflections on one or two of them before we get into the main areas of our discussion.
Well, my main, what caught my eye was the issue of the bandits.
Yes.
If I look at, time immemorial, since Kenyatta time, we've had bandits. And we've had at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 governments. And all have had a talk of, we need to eradicate banditry. Very unfortunate, it seems that it's all talk. But then again, I think...
have been similar.
Yes, we will deal with it. I've heard of operations that have been carried out, whether military or whether by the police, and they've tried to, take the guns away from these particular people. They've changed the Kenya reservists. All these things have just been happening around us, and we believe something is happening. But unfortunately, people keep dying, people keep losing property, people keep losing cattle, and I wonder, is it that the government is unable to address this issue?
Or it doesn't want to?
Or is it that the government itself has gotten entangled
In it.
into dealing with an issue that it is not necessarily with the people,
Right.
but it is with the government? You know? Because it's very difficult for you to convince me that the government with the full machinery that can move to Somalia and eradicate or deal with Al-Shabaab cacophoniously, that we cannot deal with small elements of banditry in this country.
Wow.
I think there is something deeper that we need to understand, and we need to analyze and see. The people we give the responsibility of addressing this matter, are they in a position to, or are they compromised? What is the interest of banditry? Who benefits from banditry? I mean, who's losing and who's gaining? Because we could be sending a hyena to rescue a goat, while in actual sense, the hyena is feeding on the goat. I think there's something like that we need to look at. The other thing which is very interesting is...
So before you go to the other thing, if you had a sitting with Professor Kithure Kindiki, what would be your word to him?
Let him get serious.
He isn't.
I don't think he's serious. To be very honest, at times you would want to make it sound very nice and friendly. But we cannot keep on talking while people are losing their lives. I mean, people are dying. I mean, you talk of operations, you talk of you've had them, and you're getting the battle to their doorstep. People are still dying. So I'm really worried what else he will tell us. I think it's right for him now to just shut up and just act. Let us see these people arrested. These people do not have any drones. These people do not have any digital equipment that will manage for the, they are not monitoring the government. The government has the artillery, the machinery, the digital aspect of monitoring and finding out where these people are.
So there is no question whatsoever as, in relation to the capacity of the government.
Do not underrate the Kenyan government when it comes to capacity to deal in matters of security. We are recognized security institution, if I can call it, in Africa. We are doing wonders in DRC. We are doing wonders in Somalia. I mean, look at the nations that look at us for training.
We are the ones to be reached for.
We are the people who train this government. We train South Africa, we train Uganda, we train Rwanda, name it. But we cannot handle in-house. Wow, there is a problem.
Yeah, and what I think, engineer, one of the things that maybe is raising question is regarding the issue of proper calculation. What do I mean by this? When it comes to maybe operations in that corridor, does not only affect the bandits, but also the residents themselves. Because bandits, maybe they have gone for hiding. And before you identify who is a bandit and not a bandit, the most affected person is the innocent.
True.
And sometimes I tend to think, sometimes it's a political and chain that is making them to not to act. Maybe they feel, now if you go and do serious armory there, serious operation there, it is going to destabilize maybe a political base. Yeah.
Well, to some extent, I agree. But also, in as much as we would want to really hammer the government, the security arm of government, on why it's failing to deal with the bandits, I think also we need to look at where is the human, where is the human being or the population that are directly affected by bandits at this point. When the government is trying so hard to establish, the whereabouts of the bandits, where are Kenyans? The people who lose lives, the people who lose cattle. I hear them cry. But are they telling us that they totally do not know these bandits? They know them. So there must be something else beyond the operations that the police carry out that would enable the government to establish where the bandits are. Because again, there could be some culture involved here. Maybe these people are circumcising their boys. I mean, there are cultures that actually tell that when this season, I don't know, I'm just trying to use an analogy here,
Yes.
that when they're doing this kind of ritual or exercise, then they need to attack and maybe kill a lion or kill a leopard. Maybe this is what is happening and we don't know. So they will never tell the security organs that this is going to happen because it's a passage. They would want their youth to go to the next level. So if that is involved again, it goes beyond even what the government can do in ensuring that the bandits don't attack. But I think there is more to the cattle business. I think there is a cartel there that deals with a lot of money when it comes to cattle. Because when they come and attack, they don't just kill and maim. I mean, they kill and maim, but they run away with about 200 cattle or 300. And I wonder, if the bandits can hide, because I know if we have all kind of scanners, the bandits would be able to run away and hide, yes? What about the cattle? How comes these guys disappear with cattle?
Thousands.
In their thousands.
So that actually tells you there's something beyond just banditry. There is an economic sense behind it. There is some value added to banditry so that it will always happen over and over again. Unfortunately, we are not being able to deal with it. I think we need to directly engage the society. Let us discuss the issue. Let us put the government on the spot. Let them get the security on the ground so that really you don't respond when we've died. Respond before so that at least we know you saved 3 of us. Otherwise you are going to be dead if you did not get here on time.
Exactly.
But if you come the following morning, you come and help us to clean the ashes.
Engineer, you had something else to pick on?
I think I wanted to pick on the what? On the what? I think I was looking at what is happening at the Jacaranda.
Yes.
And I think next week there is Kibera now.
And then we go to Machakos.
Yes.
And then we come to Nakuru.
I personally won't stand and say that whatever Mr. Odinga, Honorable Odinga is doing is bad. Because really, nothing good comes, easily. I mean, if you all remember, multipartyism didn't just come easy. President Moi did not want to give us multipartyism. And there was a lot of push by the then leadership, including the clergy and even the opposition, in trying to get Kenya into multipartyism. Today we are not crying foul of multipartyism. I think we are crying foul that we are seeing a scenario where democracy per se is actually not being exercised as much as we are being told we are a democratic state. So I think Raila should be allowed to do what he's doing.
But don't you think this is dangerous, that we've just finished an election and we are again in an election mood? I mean, up to 2027.
It's the fear that it's sold to Kenyans that at the end of the day they put aside the issues that matters most to them. Because really, are you telling me that you wouldn't want to see a democratic state called Kenya? That tomorrow Mangicho Mola will vie for presidency and will become #1 and he will be told you are the president? Or you'll become #5 and be told you are #5 and you will not question the votes you got? I mean, that is the most ideal position everybody is looking for. I mean, if there is a problem with IEBC, how else will you address it? If somebody like Honorable Raila is not allowed to agitate and push for whatever agenda he has. I mean, it is the only opportunity we have today to address IEBC.
But I think, Engineer, we came up with the Supreme Court, and this is an institution that we brought as a country, and it put this matter to rest.
I believe it had put it to rest, but then again, the issues that surrounded the decision that was made by the Supreme Court, which is a plus. I love the fact that we had a Supreme Court that will sort this issue and people will rest. But there are so many things, again, circumstances around it that tells us something had to be done beyond that. Because it seems, in as much as they ruled, there seems to be no proper justice that was sent through for Kenyans to believe it. A lot of Kenyans seems to have lost trust with the institution. I mean, if you look at the statistics, I think I saw about 30% of Kenyans believe that the IEBC would deliver. I mean, that in itself, even if the Supreme Court ruled on what IEBC did, only 30% still believe that IEBC did it right. So it doesn't matter, even if the Supreme Court ruled the other way, only 30% would have believed on that outcome, meaning 70% are questioning. So the country in itself is not at peace because everybody has a question. It was not right. So the Supreme Court, again, the other issues that came with Supreme Court.
So is there a better way to do it other than calling for these meetings, which in a particular way or in quite a number of ways, so many people think that they are going to cause disharmony in the country? Is there a way that the leaders themselves can sort these matters out?
There is a way. I agree there is a way because the Constitution has given us a platform. But let's not forget, but the platforms provided for, number one, being the parliament that we have, both Senate and the National Assembly, is actually full of members elected via a particular political party.
And those who are in the other side also shifted.
Agreed. And we know what is happening, that the situation, I'm just talking of circumstances that are making or justifying whatever Honorable Raila is doing today. Parliament today, you have heard them discuss issues. The issues they're discussing are issues that not everybody else would really say that are all, making sure that everybody is at peace. We have seen things coming out as if they're vengeance. There are things that are being done that are sounding funny. When today you tell me you have vindicated all the people who had been, what do you call it, arrested or have had a case on tax evasion or failure to pay tax, then you come and say you are following other people to pay tax. You see, already there is an imbalance. And people feel as if the current prosecutor was the one who prosecuted those cases, what authority again are you giving him to prosecute others on the same basis of tax evasion while he has let go of about 10 people on the same matter? And we're not talking 2 shillings, we're talking billions. Already you're putting a scenario that there is a system that is not working, whether it's the police or the investigative arm, or whether it's the judiciary, or whether it's the executive arm, or the parliament is just not working. And back to my point on the issue of the alignment of parliament and Senate today seem to be biased on a particular line of thinking. So that justifies, again, the other source, the other way or the other avenue of sorting issues. And the meetings are not bad. People are just discussing. We've had Jacaranda, there were no issues. We've had this other, there were no issues. So even if they continue with the next one that will be at Kibera and Machakos, people are just discussing.
But somebody would be asking engineer, therefore, that if you are saying these institutions have been seen to fail the country or part of the country in quotes, then how would these meetings, how would having rallies in Machakos, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kisumu yield results?
Okay, it's not a matter of yielding results, because that is the end game. Okay. We must get some results. And the result here, I'm not particularly saying that Raila has to be made the president. Please, let's not confuse the issues. I'm actually discussing of a platform that is being, availed for us to discuss issues.
But that is actually what you've said is actually what is in the minds of most Kenyans. Because
Agreed.
He is on record saying that the president should leave State House.
But he has no authority because we have institutions today that guarantee and secure that office as the president, Ruto as the president, all right? So he has no authority to just shout and say, Ruto to go home. He can't. But the discussion that is on the table is what I'm interested in. What are we discussing? The issues that we are discussing, number one, is IEBC. We have seen tendencies of us, of government or the government in power, trying to put people who are more friendly or who are more, aligned to them, to those dockets, okay? But I'm thinking, let us discuss how we can make IEBC so fair that I wouldn't mind to hear if, for example, Chebukati was to be reinstated, quote unquote, and he's been earning 1 million shillings every month or 2 million shillings every month. I would even suggest let's double that. But also let's put a threshold. Because really, let Chebukati or the person who will occupy that office know that in the event he goes contrary, it is his life.
Engineer, if we can just pause there for a second. I'm being told by my director that we need to take a short break at this particular point.
Okay.
But remember, we are coming back with plenty more. The commencement of junior secondary schools. You want to hear more of that after this short breather.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Niko na msemo hapa hivi, ukamilishe. Maji ya dafu?
Maji ya dafu yapatikana Mombasa.
Jasusi ni nani?
Jasusi ni kama mamluki.
Mamluki ni nani?
Si ndio jasusi.
Na kachero ni nani?
Kachero. Kachero, kaparo.
Tunga sentensi ukitumia neno kiwiko.
Sawa. Kuku alipotega alitoa kiwiko.
No.
Kuku alipotega alitoa kiwiko.
No, no, no.
Ambayo kulingana na sentensi yako kiwiko ni neno linalomaanisha nini?
Ni sauti inayotolewa na kuku.
Ndio inaitwa kiwiko.
I said no.
Ile sauti huwa inatolewa namna gani ya kuku? Hebu
Do you desire to attain your divine destiny and serve God's purpose for your life? You can do so by your daily devotionals using inspired materials that has been written prayerfully for the benefit of the body of Christ. Apostle John Kimani William has published the 2023 edition of Nuggets of Destiny. In it, you will find an anchor scripture to guide your path as you spend time with God, a brief sermonette to inspire, teach, encourage, counsel, and rebuke you, suggestion for further reading in line with the message of each day, a prayer bullet to help you pray in the perfect will of God, and a one-year Bible reading plan to guide you through the Bible in 2023. Get your copy today at Kingdom Seekers Fellowship Gift Shop and at Heaven's Gate Prayer Mountain Gift Shop. You can also call 0722 344 360 to place your order today. If you are in Nairobi and its environs, place your order through 0799 573 310. God bless you.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back. You're still joining us right here on MBCI TV, watching the program The Mid-Morning Pack, your weekly show every Wednesday from 10:30 to 12. You want to get matters, current affairs, topical issues in the country, in the society, political matters, educational matters, health matters, and everything in between. This is where to tune in, and of course, you will be enlightened on a number of issues. We are having Engineer Victor Ngatia on site, helping us to navigate through a number of issues. And remember, our main areas of discussion today: the commencement of junior secondary schools, and also the rising cost of living. The question that we are asking you: what is your view? What is your opinion on the commencement of junior secondary schools, and you can continue giving us your views on our 23814 shortcode platform, and also on MBCI TV, that is our Facebook page, MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. And I can see quite a number of people are commenting here. We have Susan Cheriro, he's saying, watching from Nairobi. Dedake Doreen, people says Kenya is a revival country, but whatever is happening in the country is the same thing written in the Word of God. When Israelites were going out of God's ways, God was giving enemies strengthened to strike the Israelites. So Kenyans must pray and turn back to God. The country will be at peace. I can also see Anita Mwas. You are also joining us. Thank you so much. Continue giving us your reflections. And of course, we'll be able to continue sampling them when we continue, or even as we continue with our discussion. So much for the IBC and the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Engineer, let us now get to the junior secondary schools. How has it been for you, seeing this new program in the country?
Well, to be very honest, I think I'm an excited man. I think I love CBC. Apart from a few things here and there, initially I was really against CBC because I thought 844 was not necessarily a failure.
And some people have been saying that this CBC has never succeeded in any country. Are we the first one to?
No, I think even in UK, CBC is what is currently running in UK, I guess. It's not that it has never succeeded. I think we also need to look at what kind of people we are producing, or every other year, or students, or graduates. And if 844 had an issue, I think it's only wise that we look at what else we can do. But also remember, our kind of education that was 844 was mainly based on a lot of cramming, a lot of just memorizing and stuff like that. But CBC brings about the aspect of actual learning, experience, practical aspect of education. But I still have a problem with how we are ending up doing the practicals, because we still are going back again to more of just looking at the photos and pictures day in, day out. We must also put this CBC to some serious interrogation in terms of, if we want the kids to be practical and we want them to see a cow, why should they use a photo to see a cow? I think it's only wise that maybe it's good that we see a cow. We can see.
To bring the cow.
You're talking about
no,
the real
not to
cow.
bring. I mean, if the real cow, yes. If it's chicken, let's not have kids calling a goat a sheep. No, it should be practical directly there. If you look at the essence of CBC, it's something that will be directly practical. They would want to play more. They would want to be out there, visiting animal orphanages. They would be out there, looking at how the traffic is working, going into government offices and understanding. This is the actual aspect of practicality of education. But if, again, we are still going to stay in classrooms and still keep on looking at photos and whatever, by the time you go, for example, the other day I took my nephew to the farm. And apparently when the goat seemed to come to him, he took off. Because as far as he's concerned, this is an animal, so it's not friendly. But if we had some practical lessons directly with the kid.
Particularly a wild animal.
Okay, forget about the wild animal. They would run away, but they would know that. I'm talking of domesticated animals, a goat or even a pet dog. They would still run away. A chicken would come, they would run away. Simply because they have not had any practical experience directly. They are more into books and reading and magazines.
Yes.
Which for me is not working well.
And Magnicho, before you continue,
yes.
Engineer, the issue of skills, an area also I have a lot of interest. CBC is more skilled based.
Yes.
And I believe that you understand how the 844 started then, not the ending, but the beginning of 844.
Yes.
What is the difference between the original 844 when it was starting and then now the current CBC in terms of skills?
CBC wanted to achieve exactly that initial aspect of 844, because really for me it doesn't make sense if I'm still going to do 844 and end up doing 16 and then do this other new one that is 6-3 whatever and still end up doing 16. The total education span is 16 years. So whether I do 6 in the primary and then I do 3 in junior and then 3 again in the high and then another 3, the total span still goes 16. So if at the end of the day I'm going to have some practical lessons, 844 started with, I remember doing a house or a hut, you know, mud house, and I would put on the poles and I would hatch it, you know, and I would thatch it. So, but today, that is not part of what we are seeing, in as much as CBC seems to bring some practicality in education. So, as remember in our last show, I think sometime last year, I said I was more into 844 if we had reverted to the original 844. Because it was very practical. I remember making a rake. I remember making a knife. Now, if I look at my kid today in CBC, I almost end up doing everything. You know, when I'm supposed to do a small car, I still do it. I remember in our time, we would make cars using wires. You know,
and remember the home science, the knitting, and
I do the knitting, and I would even do. It was a mat. You know,
can today's child maybe be able to return the baton?
Well, I would want to check, but I'm tempted to say no. But I think they can, with a lot of maybe training. But that's a challenge that we take back to CBC.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, I remember home science class. Today, I don't know if we have home science. I think we have science or something like that encompasses all those. I want to believe in primary, they will still do those things practically. So that at the end of the day, when they don't have anything any money to take to go to a tailor, they would still do something. I remember things were so thick then when the economy was not very good, and they would get kids who would come with patched, you know, shorts, and you'll be amazed. It's not anybody else who did the patching. They did the patching themselves. So I don't know if today we have kids who would do that, and if the economy is not as accommodative, would they really be able to patch up their shorts and go to school? Because again, you do not want to go naked, you know?
Yeah. And of course, engineer, looking at it therefore, and of course, where we are in the 21st century, and training these kids using this particular model in relation to the dynamics of the job market today, how do you think this will benefit them?
Well, I think it will. Remember, we also had a complaint with the kind of graduates we're churning out to the public. You know, the employers are looking for employees who are qualified in particular and skilled in particular areas. And they had a question on what they see on their CV vis-a-vis the practical view of the person and what they can do in office. I want to believe in another 4 years we will be able to tell very well, because we have the first year now getting into, I don't know, in another 6 years we can tell the kind of graduate we'll get out of high school. Because again, remember, the older system had the 762. We had people who did Form 6 and really came up very strong as individuals outside there, whether it's their, you know, whatever skills, whether it's verbal skills, whether it's, you know, actual skills of whatever they had to do without necessarily going to college. A lot of them really stood out, and they could sit and you would think they've really done some serious courses. Now I want to believe in another 6 years we'll be able to see, and I pray that we get somebody that will be able to do something and that people will appreciate as compared to what we had gotten some secondary 844. You know, we talked about the initial original 844, and by the time we are getting to the last 844, we had seen some weakness, and even the graduates that were churning out of 844. I really want to believe that the new system will do something, but we cannot downplay the effects of joking with the system and expecting it to just produce.
Exactly. And that's where we are going to come into, but at this particular point, Kagi, I want us first of all, because our mid-morning reporter, Vincent Kimtai, was able to tour a number of schools yesterday, and of course got some remarks, got some opinions and some feedback on how this particular program has started, how the junior secondary schools has started. And at this particular point, let us be in a position to see what is it that our reporter Vincent Kimtai got on the commencement of junior secondary school.
Shukran sana Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi mkiwa upande wa pili wa studio. Na kama vile ambavyo mmeweza kusema mkiwa hapo studioni, ni wiki ambao tumeshuhudia wanafunzi wa junior secondary wakiripoti shuleni. Na siku ya Jumatatu tuliona waziri wa elimu Ezekiel Mashogu akiwa katika shule moja jijini Nairobi, akishuhudia wanafunzi hao pia wakijiunga na junior secondary. ambapo waziri wa elimu Ezekiel Machogu aliweza kubainisha kwamba wanafunzi hao wote zaidi ya 1.2 milioni wataweza kujiunga na gredi ya 7. Na waziri wa elimu Ezekiel Machogu vile pia alisema maandalizi yote yamekamilika, kila kitu kiko shwari kwa ajili ya wanafunzi hao kujiunga na gredi ya 7. Na leo hapa kama ambavyo mnavyotazama, tuko katika shule moja ambapo tutakuwa tukizungumza pamoja na washikadau wa elimu ili kuweza kubaini ikiwa kweli maandalizi yamekamilika. Na wakati huu nitakuwa nikielekea katika ofisi ya mkurugenzi wa shule hili ili kuweza kuzungumza naye akaweze kutueleza maandalizi yamefikia wapi, kisha nitaweza kuzungumza na walimu pamoja na wanafunzi pamoja na wazazi pia wakituelezea je, matarajio yao kuhusiana na hii CBC au Junior Secondary School.
Bishop Dr. George Mwaura, the director of Thou Kingly School, and we are happy to have started receiving the junior high school learners. And for us, we are very ready. We have the labs, the science lab ready. We have the home science lab ready, and we are set and ready to go. The turn-up is a bit slow, but I'm glad we have quite a sizable number. At least we have around 10, and we have already started teaching. For us, we have enough teachers. We actually prepared from December. We had an interview for teachers, and we got the necessary teachers. All what we are waiting for now is the guideline for the Ministry of Education as pertains to the curriculum that we will need to follow. But we have some textbooks that we are following that we have already started teaching. And the interview, basically we were looking for those who have undergone CBC because this is purely a CBC school, and therefore we wanted those who are CBC trained. There are seminars and training that were taking place last year. For us, this is a private school, so we may not really be benefiting from the fund that the government is giving public schools. We are catering everything for ourselves. What I would like to really say as far as the government is concerned, they tell us we don't have private learners. If we don't have private learners, then they should all of them be funded from the government, just like the other schools. Yeah, that is my plea to the government. Yeah.
My name is Margaret Oidera Madaga, and I'm a parent here in Thou Kingly School.
So do you think the government was prepared enough for junior secondary?
It was prepared halfway, let me say like halfway, because they have done a good job in paying the school fees for helping the parents to pay the school fees. Lakini ukiangalia upande wa madarasa and the facilities that they need to use while they are learning, naona kidogo kama hawakufanya kazi mzuri. Ukiangalia shule zingine hawana madarasa ya kutosha, wengine hawana laboratories na libraries. So nashangaa hawa watoto kama watakuwa na wakati mzuri wakisoma, unless they have a better plan for that. Lakini kufikia hapa, kwa sababu walikuwa na muda mrefu wa kujipanga, naona wangekuwa wamejipanga tayari, watoto wasiende kuteseka. Mi kwangu naweza sema wamejipanga tu kiasi. My call to the government is CBC is very good compared to 844. And me as a parent, I vote for it. Naipenda sana. Lakini waangalie watoto wetu, waangalie waharakishe hii mipango ya kufanya maabara na madarasa, waharakishe watoto wasiende tena sasa kukaa kwa darasa bila kusoma. So naomba serikali iharakishe mipango, watoto ndio waweze kusoma vizuri.
My name is Felix, Teacher Felix, and actually I'm prepared for this CBC, and for sure, as you can see, we have the facilities. You know, it requires a lot of facilities, and also actually the capital. But here I can see the school, we are ready.
because as you can see, we have the facilities, we have all the requirements for the junior secondary. Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that are there in the junior secondary so far?
There are challenges, but they are not that much. One I can see we have that's the textbooks. We have the challenge because even on the side of the ministry, they haven't released those are the textbooks for the schools to use. So that is one of the challenges actually that is making us to face different hiccups up and there.
I am teacher Kezia Opagala, a teacher in Thao Kingley School. I'm teacher grade 4. I teach also grade 5, grade 6, and grade 7. As the name suggests, competence-based curriculum. In CBC, we look at how competent your learner is. The system itself is diverse. It caters for each and every learner's ability so that the learners will be able to take care or will be able to embrace the innate abilities that they have. Let's look at the 844 curriculum. Most of the time, as I speak here, I went through the 844 curriculum. And for the 844 curriculum, we were most of the time prepared only to know how we can pass exams and be prepared for the white-collar jobs. But as far as CBC is concerned, and the subjects that the learners are learning right now in CBC, it caters for the learners' competence and abilities to enable the learners be able to give out their best in whatever the skills and abilities they have. It caters for learners' talents. It caters for learners. It caters also for learners' maturity, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. It is not discriminative as far as CBC is concerned.
Very well, there we go. That is our reporter Vincent Kimutai with the entire crew of the Mid-Morning Park getting us some of what has been happening in our schools since the beginning of the junior secondary schools. And of course, you can see the teachers, the parents, and even the pupils are upbeat about this particular model.
Yes, you can easily tell. And one of the things, as I was listening to the clip, is the issue of the equipment in the schools. And as we know, even we look at the current education system, private and public schools, in most of the public schools, they seem to be lagging behind in terms of availability of the equipment for the learners. You see? And even here, if the government is not careful, I was looking at what the CS Education was saying, that some schools are going to share laboratories with their neighbors. Others are going to share books, some equipment for the games, a lot of things. But you see, I think if you look at the way things are going, some private institutions in terms of the CBC or the JSS, junior secondary, are more prepared than the public schools. And therefore, is a wake-up call this time around, that we don't subject our peoples to a one institution. There are no facilities, there are no teachers, you see? And then when the private institutions try to organize themselves, then we try again to victimize them in terms of maybe...
Yeah, so engineers, you respond to Kagi's sentiment. So are we talking about a good initiative, a good project, a good program, but wrong timing?
Well, it's not wrong timing. It's just that I think we have this tendency with the government taking things very lightly. Because I'm thinking, and I'm not very sure of the date we launched CBC, but if now we have a graduate in class 6, in grade 6, who's done now in grade 7, the government has had 6 years of preparing for this because it was coming. I'm just lost for words that we are not prepared 6 years later. It just tells you how long does a government require to have such a system in place.
Okay.
You know, 6 years means it's a whole span of a whole government tenure.
And we are talking about kids alive.
True.
Talking about education.
And it only tells you...
There is no reverse.
It only tells you how serious a matter it is we are dealing with. because this is the next generation we are trying to prepare. And we know how tough it is for us now. And if we do not prepare well, it means it's going to be tougher for them. So it's unfortunate that we're in this position, that we can even talk of some equipment not available. I'm thinking, how long does a private organization require to prepare for this? And I think they need less than a year to just have everything on. We've seen a school there that has about 10 students, but they have everything almost ready. We have the lab is such a big thing in public schools. A number of schools don't have the lab and even the equipment. So how long does it take for the government to do that is a joke, because 6 years or even 3 years to just have that done is just too much a time. But I think CBC is a beautiful project.
So we can actually say this is a great injustice to the kids that are actually
extreme. Because this means,
and actually looking even at one particular aspect, the teachers. Okay,
that's another thing. Yes.
30,000 employed, and the information is that we will only have one teacher. Okay, actually,
you're only emphasizing on what I'm trying to say. Yes. We've had this project on the table for 6 years. We needed to prepare the teachers for CBC. We cannot push the students again into the system, then tell them you need to keep on reading those books before the teachers can come in, because we're not ready. You need to keep on reading whatever you have, because we don't have the textbooks ready, but we shall be ready in another month or two. You know, that in itself is messing the whole system. As good as it is, we are now crumbling the system. Because we will have the first batch of students graduating who will say, we did not do much of what we were expected to have done to prepare them for this, for the community. They go outside there and the people will be saying, CBC is not good. So I think in the same way we've seen the government handling security, we are seeing the same thing repeating itself in this particular education and many others. If you go to the next topic that you're also tackling about,
the rising cost of living.
Rising cost of living. I mean, these are things we have failed to do at the right time that are hitting back. I mean, we have talked, I do not want to go to the next topic because it's still another very hot topic about the cost of living is going up and up. The same thing about education. If we are not going to have a government that is going to be serious with what they're supposed to do while in office, we are not going to make it any better in the next 5 years. Life is going to get worse, it's going to get more expensive, and again, people are going, look at the number of people committing suicide today. I mean, it tells you it is directly proportional with the difficulties they're facing in life. It is how challenging life has become that we cannot afford to make it even a degree more challenging to them, because more will commit suicide.
And of course now with inadequate teachers, Kagi, with inadequate facilities, some of these schools not having laboratories, maybe libraries, even maybe classrooms and so on and so forth. And therefore, the aim, the expectations of this particular model will be an exercise in futility.
Yeah, of course. And before we continue in that direction, there's one thing that I noted yesterday when there was the registration of the students. In most of the public schools, the turnout was very high. In fact, some of the head teachers were saying, we cannot admit more students because
we have the 100% transition.
Yes.
So no child is supposed to remain at home.
Yes, it can easily confirm that parents are very much ready for the CBC or JSS vis-a-vis the government preparation. The public is prepared for the system. The government is not well prepared. It's too unfortunate. You see? Yeah.
And that will bring out the disparity between the private schools and the public schools.
You see, Paul, on that issue of the parents being very prepared, a parent is not necessarily prepared, but let's give it to them. They're prepared because they're ready to get their kids to school. But then again, this is a grade. We are in grade 6. My kid has to go to grade 7, with or without CBC.
Yeah.
My kid will have gone to class 7. But which class are they going to? And that's your issue here. That the government has not prepared that classroom, number one. Number two, you have said, at that point of their learning, which is junior secondary, they need a laboratory. The government has not provided. So who was in charge of making sure that the laboratories are in place? Because that in itself brings the disconnect. Because maybe whoever is doing the laboratory has no clue of CBC. Because he's 844 anyway. So he does not see the connection that I am quickly supposed to deliver a lab for a grade 7 who's standard 7 to him to use a laboratory. You know? So I think in itself we have a problem with, I still believe the government needs to have its house in order. Things need to match up, and I think it's a high time that Kenyans now start looking at things that are supposed to be done by the government and time them. Wow. You know, we must get the schedule. If we say we are supposed to have laboratories by December of 2023, we should not wait for the government to tell us they're ready. I'm supposed to be knowing I'm going to a particular school. Yeah. Does Mamangina Primary School have a laboratory? Who is supposed to be in charge? I mean, the parents should not sit back and wait. Because you'll wait, they will fail you, but your kid will fail twice.
Wow. Right.
You know, I mean that's my only thinking about that. I mean, the education, when you talk about teachers, they're not ready, really. Exactly. We should be able to question before that time. Do we have the teachers? In the event that we don't have the teachers, do we now skip that year and say we should be ready in another 12 months? Sure. Because really, we are putting a kid, for example, COVID came. You saw how our sons and daughters suffered when they're having a crash program to have them recover the lost time. We cannot just prepare another period of recovery because these kids are in class now. We have paid, and you remember, no parent recovered their fees. So now we are sending them, so there is no teacher, there is no material for learning, there are no lab equipment, or there is no even laboratory. My daughter or my son is in secondary, junior secondary. I'm supposed to pay fees. I have paid fees. Then at the end of the year, they have not covered the curriculum. Then I'm told I'm going to grade 8. Is that fair to a parent? Is that fair to that girl or that boy? It's not fair.
It's not fair.
I think we must be able to see we have not met the threshold of proceeding.
Yeah.
Then we need to proceed with the old system until another 12 months are done for us to be ready for the next.
We need to get to the other area, rising cost of living. Or Kagi, you still had...
Before you go on, there's something small I wanted to highlight, just by the way.
You have some experience in this education sector.
The CS for Education yesterday talked about the banning of the early and late classes in the schools. Yes. There is no more preps and even in classes for all schools in the country. I don't know how you take that. That means your child is not required in school
earlier.
Later. Because he was saying you could see some children 5 a.m. in the buses going to school. That means that child woke up at 4 a.m. going to school. Others, you can see them in the buses in the stage at 10 p.m. So how do you take that? Is it because he was saying one of the reasons they are taking that step is to be able to safeguard the mental health of the children.
And that includes also those who are in boarding schools?
Yes.
Because they used to go for preps at around 5. So now they'll be waking up at 7.
8 or 7:30. you know, to be very honest, I think we are getting lost with this particular policy. This policy is too good for us. But at times I see some particular professors and people around the institutions who are supposed to make positive changes to it, messing up the system. For example, I was in 8-4, and I was an early student. I would want to be somewhere reading by 5 a.m., and I always did that, and they did well for me. So when you come and say you're sorting a problem that you have seen that kids are too early in the buses, the problem is not the prep. The problem is something else. If the transport system does not allow the kids to get there by 5 a.m., do not stop them from going to class at 5 a.m. Deal with your transport. Because you're putting the problem as if it's a student. It's not a student. The students want to be in class by 7. Make an arrangement for them to be in class by 7. Now, if you stop them from going to class by 7, then you're already, again, preparing a less qualified student or graduate because they didn't have enough time. The amount of assignments they get by 3:30 or 4, they need time to do the assignment before tomorrow. So you've stopped their prep, so they will have no time to do that. But you want them to be in class in the morning and to answer questions on issues that they did not have a time to address. So the problem is not the prep. And that's why I think here, whoever is changing that is miscalculating. The problem is the other issues that are supposed to complement education. And in this case, transportation is part of it.
Yeah.
If it has failed, it is transport that has failed. Don't call the education.
So you think that by banning of this might actually compromise
yes,
the performance?
Directly. I mean, the kids, they listen in class. The kid needs time to sit down and start regurgitating, you know, going through exactly what they did in class. For them to, you know, gel well.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Any other person with a different opinion, why dowry? I guess that's easier to ask. Why dowry? Not whether it is necessary or not. Yes, Mary.
Okay, I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of many, but mostly dowry tunakuwa tukifanya because it's like fulfilling a certain tradition that is always being done. So mara mingi yake hatujuangi ni kwa nini, but inakuanga ni kama kufulfill, like you must do because your mother alilipiwa dowry na wewe lazima ulipiwe. It's like,
yeah,
I think we've seen it in even in social media where a lady says yule atakuja lazima kuja na 5 million. It was there. Yes, a lady who is almost thinking I'm worth that much. I saw some comments who were thinking hata nikipewa buri sichukui. Okay, anyway, that's what some men were saying. But for her, maybe she thinks the looks or her figure and all that is what is worth the money. The Bible says that beauty is vain and, you know, charm is deceitful. It's a woman that fears the Lord that shall be praised. That is the price of the woman that is more precious than lapis.
So I said, I want to honor you. Na my mother-in-law akaniambia, we kuja na ile uko nayo. Nilienda na ngiri 3 na nikakubaliwa. So mimi nataka kusema ya kwamba
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Yeah, thank you so much. You are still joining us right here on the Mid-Morning Pack. And I can see quite a number of you are still watching and participating. We have Favor Connie saying watching, and also David Bergen also saying watching. We have Jackson Tuwei watching from Eldoret. Thank you so much. You can continue giving us your opinion and also your reflections on our conversation today in the Mid-Morning Pack show. 23814, our shortcode platform, and also on our social media platforms. MBCI TV for Facebook and MBCI TV official, that is for YouTube. I know we can talk more on the CBC and the junior secondary schools, but because of time, but engineer, we have to go to our next area of discussion into the rising cost of living. And the president is once again on record asking Kenyans even to prepare for tougher economic times before things get well. So many people had thought that it was after the 100 days that things would have gotten much better. But right now, I think at some point, a number of products, the prices had come down, but once again, they've shot. What is the reflection on this?
Well, I think sometime, I think was it in November, we actually had seen this, just right here on Mid-Morning Park, and we had said, we're not looking at anything less than six months, because everybody else was looking at maybe another 2 months, or, you know, things will get back in order, but once we get the parliament in place, we get the cabinet. No. Things are even getting tougher, and even the alarm has been sounded by the president that things are bound to get tougher. But I don't know, I'm feeling like there's something I wanted to wrap up on that issue. Let me just wrap up with 30 seconds. Okay. On the issue of the CS, you know, cancelling or, you know, stopping the early morning preps and the late evening prep, I think we quickly need to look at what can we do to get our kids in class early and to allow them that extra time to be able to do their assignments. And maybe what I would quickly suggest is, could we look at making the transportation buses that are today, thanks to Matiang'i, yellow in color? Could we look at ensuring that they have an expressway? Could we also enforce through the police that they would ensure that if there is a yellow bus that is going to take kids to school, that the road is cleared?
Okay.
The same thing should happen in the evening when the kids are leaving school and they're supposed to be home early. Can we have the roads cleared by the police to ensure that the yellow buses are not held on traffic? And I think that would help to alleviate that issue of dealing with kids late to class and even late at the bus station.
Right.
On that issue of rising food prices, I think we have messed ourselves up over a long period of time. For the longest time, I think, during Uhuru's tenure, for 2013 to 2022, I think this subject was still there. And I remember us discussing, and there was subsidy for maize, and maize was cheap. At some point, it went to 45 shillings or something like that, or 50 bob, below 50 shillings. And people were upbeat that things are getting better. Although, I think the 10 years, we concentrated on temporary measures. We did not look at long term. I think the small windows we got of looking at long term, which included the dams that the Jubilee government intended to have, Kimwarer and Arol will never run away until it's done. I think those are things that we have failed to do, and now it's hitting us. We have, for the longest time, we have discussed maize being a staple food, and I remember there's one gentleman who told us we should look at diversifying what we eat, and we should look at the rats and the snakes. And I think that was the last time we heard of him because he disappeared from the political scene. But I think he had a point.
Yes.
We have failed to deal with our long-term goals in matters agriculture and food provision to our people. We have failed the Galana Kulalu, which is a project of over, was it 10,000 acres? We could not have it running. Why? I don't know, because I think we have qualified personnel. We have people, we have right engineers who tackle such a problem very easily. But I think the same sentiments about our government not taking things serious. If you look at what is happening with our neighbors, Ethiopia did a dam within, I think, 3-4 years. Now it's running. It's supplying electricity. The electricity is cheap. In fact, I think we're importing electricity from them. If you look at what is happening in Tanzania, Tanzania is doing a dam, the biggest in Eastern Central Africa.
Right.
Bigger than what we have in Ethiopia. Now for what? For hydro producing power. So they're going to have very cheap power that can power their railway. You know, those are things that are happening while we are talking. And I think Kenyans just need to stop talking. Time is come for us to start acting.
And I think that is what also the former president said yesterday, that leaders should stop more of talking and begin more of doing. But then engineer, because we're also looking at these steps that the government had taken recently, talking about revoking of maize subsidies, importing 1.5 million bags of fertilizer, and recently the president has also been on record saying that we're going to drastically look at the issue of borrowing. And we are looking at the government borrowing 3.6 trillion over 5 years against 4.1 trillion during Uhuru's regime. Now, these steps, what is your perception on how they are really going to improve the state of economy in the country?
I think we are getting lost, and I think we have hit a plateau in the leadership in terms of, or is a blind spot, that we don't seem to see the true things that ail Kenyans, or even this country, to alleviate the main problems that we are facing. I see a scenario where we have a country like Zimbabwe has mapped out, and I love that clip I saw of their president talking about how they've mapped up the country and they can tell the need they have. For example, in Kenya, if you check, well, we need about 4.5 trillion, mega trillion bags of maize every year. And I'm just wondering, is Kenya in a position to produce 4.5 million bags? Are we? We are not. What are we doing to be able to produce? Because if at the end of the day we cannot produce that, it doesn't matter what we talk about. At the end of the day, we're still going to depend on the smaller economies of East Africa to supply us with food. For example, Tanzania is smaller, in terms of economy. Uganda is smaller. But we feed from Uganda and Tanzania.
We import maize from
We
them.
import it, not just maize. We import all sorts of things from them, all cereals. Why is a country that is so huge economically not thinking of how they can feed their own people? I think the Ministry of Agriculture needs to up their game, to be very honest. We need to map up this country. We need to know what can Uasin Gishu give us in terms of maize. Then again, why won't we have a policy? Like now I've seen we've already imported maize. And the maize that we've imported duty-free is competing with our farmers. So our farmers now are now fighting to have something sold or delivered to the cereals board, while all the millers are saying we are full. Our stores are full.
We're not taking them.
We're not taking more. Why didn't the government first of all purchase from the locals?
But before you move there, engineer, in terms of the government importing food and buying from the local farmers, I feel sometimes these farmers somehow they are very rude to the government, and also somehow knowingly or unknowingly they have a little bit of sabotage. For example, last year when they had their harvest, when the bag of maize was 6K plus, they refused to sell the maize to the NCPPB.
They're waiting for the prices
to shoot. And when the maize is shooting is when we don't have maize in the country, right? So when all of them had harvested maize, now, of course, you know, when we have the supply is very high. You know, the
demand and supply.
Yes. The price now went down to 4.5 per bag.
They're going down.
You see?
It's now 4,000.
Even as we're speaking right now, the bag is around 4,000, isn't it? It is coming down every week. And if you go to them, they are still holding maize in their stores. And this one has happened in the history. I think they hold maize to wait for next year, like this year now. You know, around March, if they could hold maize and there's no import, then the bag could shoot up to. So I think sometimes even the farmers themselves, they are doing injustice to our situation, right? They could be, I think, lenient to sell their maize at this juncture when Kenya is in this dire situation, other than waiting the government to struggle until the only solution now is to import maize. You remember last year, the government was to import this maize. The farmers really made a lot of noise. The government said, no, we're not going to import maize. We'll import maize in the month of February. I think to give them time to clear their stores. They are not doing that.
Remember
what can one do?
And remember the same farmer said that they had incurred a lot of expense
in their planting.
And they were thinking that what the government was offering was not equivalent.
You see, there is no way we can say the farmer must dictate the price, because if I used, you know, I can use fertilizer worth 10,000 to produce 1 kg of maize. And there's somebody else who will use manure, which has no cost, to produce the same 1 kg of maize. So we cannot all have a blanket cover and say we had expensive production, or growing. I think the government also need not to be silent and to push the farmers at the corner. This goes again to the Ministry of Agriculture. I think it's only wise that you communicate and have platforms to have word with the farmers. They are the growers. I mean, there is nothing wrong. If the government can sit and say, we are looking at having a kg or 2 kg of maize flour at 100 bob, why not do the same and say, guys, we have done the mapping and you have seen, if we give you subsidized fertilizer, if we give you these seeds at this subsidized rate, at the end of the day, your production cost will be this much. So we will be offering to buy a bag of maize for 3,500. Do not hold it, but we shall clear everything that you have. Over and above that, after we finish that, we have this maize available from Tanzania or from wherever that is going to cost us 3,000 shillings. So make sure you clear before we go for 3,000. So if there is a communication of that sort, then I am very sure that if I do not sell at 3.5, then the importation will be at 3. and it will come duty-free to be 2.5. You get? So the farmer is well informed. So I'm actually seeing a scenario where the farmer is not informed.
But the Cabinet Secretary for Trade had warned the farmers.
No, you see, there is warning and there is having a discussion. Because the moment you warn me, I feel as if you're putting me...
Intimidating.
You're intimidating me so that I release.
And you want to be defensive.
Yes. So I want to make sure that at the end of the day, I'll get something out of this. I'm not just growing for the government to enjoy. I'm also growing to ensure that I can feed my family.
Right.
So, but if there is a communication and I can understand, for sure, production cost is true. For one bag is 1,500. So if I'm going to sell at 2,500, I've already made 1,000 from each bag. But if they make it 3,000, then I'll have made this more. If I don't mind if you ask me for 7,000, because it's a free market.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you should understand that the market dictates that if you do not give me at 3.5, I can get it at 3,000.
How about engineer?
So that communication would keep the farmer well informed, so that we have a scenario where we are also having surplus to be able to supply back to Uganda and to Tanzania for them not to feel nice.
Mangicho, I think I was thinking about the commercializing maize, like the way we do in coffee and also in tea, to be able to motivate these farmers who are struggling with everything. In a way that, I don't know whether they do that, but a situation whereby they make a very good system whereby farmers can go to, we call them cooperatives, because we don't have a maize cooperative as such on the NCPPB, whereby they go and maybe source fertilizer, they source seeds, and also they don't pay. They wait until the harvest, then they pay. If the harvest is endangered by the weather, then the government does not charge them at this time, because it is a calamity, right? I think that one can really work for us much more.
Let me remind you some things for you to understand. This is Kenya. The same scenario would apply in Mandera and in North Kenya, where we had farmers losing their cattle during the dry spell. Yeah? At that period, there was this system, was it Kibaki or who came up with an insurance cover? Are we still seeing animals dying? Are those farmers taken care of? Exactly what went wrong? Because you have a similar thinking that if I give this guy fertilizer, how many of them use the fertilizer to grow? Because many of them sell the fertilizer. I got it from the chief's camp. Some of them sell it. True? So how many true farmers are registered? We don't have a body. Maybe that's another changamoto for the ministry. Although I remember they said they were registering farmers. So maybe there's something like that in the offing. But I still think we need to be very careful when we're talking about, farmers getting inputs before, which is a good thing. Nobody hates free things. But I think we just need to ensure that the farmer can produce, because they have a way of going to the bank. The systems are very well, in Kenya, we have very good systems of how people can access funds, and even now we have a hustler. People can still get some funds to do whatever they want to do. So the only disconnect is where is the market? So if National Cereals and Produce Board is the first market, the people should know that starting November, the price is 3,500. And if you compare across, if we can import from Uganda and from DRC and from whatever, I think it also confirms that we can send to other countries ourselves. If Kenya is buying at 3.5, can we avail markets for these people to sell maybe in Rwanda for 4,000? 4,500. I mean, it's something that we should work out and map it such that if Kenya is buying at 3.5 and you feel it's too low, you don't have to hide your maize in the stores. It's only nice that you have another market you can send. So that it's free. The secrets involved here is what is messing our system. Because every farmer thinks they're lying to us so that they can make a killing on this other side.
Exactly.
Let it be open so that you're free to send your maize to Tanzania. Tanzania, they also have a local market. Don't be cheated, they're exporting to Kenya because Kenya is the best, most lucrative market. They also have a market. And if the market is not serving them well, they are free to produce for other. But Tanzania will not come to Kenya to buy maize, and then Tanzania exports to Kenya again maize.
Engineer, I wanted you to also comment on something else, and this is about taxation, and of course the government saying that we want to move from what we call from debt dependence to tax dependence. But when you look at what the government wants to achieve by taxing Kenyans, and of course you had even alluded to it today about some of these leaders, some of these politicians. We don't know whether it was just a fabrication, or is it true that they have really not been paying tax because of what the Nuruddin Haji, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the way he has handled that particular case. But again, there is the question of so many of Kenyans who are not employed, some of them in very, very horrible working conditions. And yet, the same government want to ensure that this particular economy is going to get well by the use of taxation.
Let me be very honest. This thing of taxation is being blown out of proportion. I personally support the president on the issue of taxation. And I'm thinking, everyone should pay tax. Let's agree of that. If this is a democratic state, everyone should pay tax. That's number one, why I agree with him. Number two, let us not blow it out of proportion and think that we are going to tax even those unemployed people. What are you taxing? From what? I mean, if you have an income, you'll be taxed. Why should you cry if you have an income? You don't want to pay tax, but you want to be loud enough asking for government services? The government has no income. The government relies on tax. And if the tax, hata kulikuwa na alikuwa nani yule kwa Biblia? Wakati kulikuwa na ushuru. Zakayo. Kulikuwa na ushuru. So tax is not something bad. The only problem I believe Kenyans should be raising is how are they utilizing our taxes? Okay. That's what we should ask. But taxation must be done. But the people who are not employed, if you have no income, if you have nothing at all, you should not complain about tax. Because even if I come to you, I'll come to you showing that you earned something. If you didn't earn, there's nothing for me to ask from you. So that number one should be understood by everybody else, because they're trying to say we are trying to force people to pay tax while they have nothing.
But looking at what the government and the bigger picture therefore, because someone else would argue that, but Kenyans have been paying tax. But
no, don't confuse again there. Kenyans have been paying tax, but what percent of Kenyans are paying tax? Yes. If we have 30% of Kenyans working, we have less than 20% paying tax. So what the president, I want to believe, is after is this 10% of people who are not paying tax.
Yes.
All right? So if he can get that, his game is done. He'll have actually gotten the collection to some level. Because if today we are only collecting a third, and we have almost half, another third, almost half that is not paying, it means we can up it to at least 2/3 collection. Simple, quick calculation. I could be wrong. But I'm not saying that the government is looking to tax people who are not earning. The people who are not paying tax are known. They can be identified.
The big fish?
Part of them are the big fish. They are there, they are known. And in fact, I love this push and shove, even why I'm telling you, I also support Raila on this push on IBC. Why? Because it's bringing out some friction that is giving us an indication of what is happening in the country, all right?
Yeah.
So let's agree with taxation.
And one of the listeners is asking engineer, one of the viewers, even for those who are paid, in quotes, peanuts.
I mean, what is peanuts?
What is peanuts?
If peanuts is 1,000 shillings per month, yeah? Yes. There is an aspect of taxation. You earned that 1,000 because of what the government facilitated. Okay. So let's not assume that the government does nothing. So we are quick to talk about Baragoi. We are quick to talk about insecurity there. What is the government using to guarantee security? I mean, even if you earn peanuts, if you're in Baragoi, would you want the government to protect you?
Sure.
Would you want the government to protect you if you live in Baragoi, Paulo?
Yes.
Yes. So why would you feel bad if some percent of that 1,000 goes into providing your security? Oh, you live in a gated community. You guys agree that you're going to hire a security firm, and every house has to pay 1,000 shillings. That is part of a localized ushuru, that you guarantee your security. The government is doing that. So they must be able to pay. And if you've been running away, unfortunately, the government will catch up. And I really support the government to catch up. But everybody must pay.
Yes, and as we continue, engineer, I think one of the things that is discouraging Kenyans from paying tax is that we can do all this work, mobilizing people to pay tax. We have 3.6 trillion to manage our budget. But after we have this basket of a huge money to, as you're saying, to manage our expenses and to run the government, then we don't have enough machinery and goodwill to be able to safeguard this money, and that's where the issue of corruption is coming in, where I think we still don't have enough mechanism and even goodwill as a country or maybe as a government to be able to safeguard this money that we are putting in this basket, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is what is discouraging many people from paying this tax.
Maybe,
Yes,
Engineer,
if
you
I
can
pay-
comment that one in a minute, because
unfortunately,
we are pressed for time and we want to get into the leadership profile. Yeah.
Unfortunately, in as much as Kenyans are worried about how the money will be protected, we must start somewhere.
Yeah.
So first of all, we must collect.
And we must call.
Then we must collect to be able to provide for those arms involved in safeguarding the amount of money is available. I love the fact that you alluded to corruption. Corruption is a topic of its own, because that is the other thing that is out of the issues that contribute to anything going wrong in this country. Corruption contributes 50%. The other factors can still come into play. But even now, we could collect. Part of the reason why we can't collect is corruption. Because there are people who do not want to pay, so they have a way of circumventing the system, and they're evading. It's corruption. The other thing as to why we are losing this money is because we don't have the system to safeguard or to protect what we collect. So even what we collect, again, is abused. So corruption, again, plays part. So we can go on and realize if we only dealt with corruption, 50% will be collected without even enforcing collection.
Yes, Engineer, we have to get into the leadership profile segment right here on the mid-morning pack. Let our director give us that particular segment, the leadership profile.
Thank you. My name is Honorable Francis Muyamwangi, an MCA in Uasin Gishu County, within a sub-county by the name Kapseret sub-county, in a ward by the name Langas Ward, which is an informal settlement. I started leadership in the year 2007 as a councillor. I served as the last councillor in the defunct council. And I was elected in 2013 as the first MCA, 2017 the second MCA in the same ward. And in 2022, I was re-elected the third time as the MCA. My advice to leaders: leadership is a calling. We need to be trustworthy and truthful to what we say, to what we do to the people. Because whatever we are doing, there is a Father in heaven who is watching over us. And if we are not doing right to humanity, it shall come to haunt us in our generation. My plea to those who are aspiring: leadership is not a joke. You must have dedicated yourself. You must have come out clean to say that I want to serve. Many Kenyans are seeking leadership because they want maybe to come and seek wealth and the like, but there is no wealth in leadership. Leadership is for you to lead and others to follow. For example, when I started as a leader, as a councillor, Langas was an informal settlement that you would not have want to leave. But today, I am a proud person that whatever God have used me as a vessel to do for the great people of Langas have made me to have a name, have enabled me to educate my children. And therefore, I'm telling the leadership, all the leaders of Kenya, let us be accountable to what we are supposed to do to Kenyans. Because if we become serious, we can take our country from third world to first world. Why? Singapore got independence behind us, and today they are in first world country. What is ailing Kenya, my fellow leaders, starting with the president? Can we pull up our socks so that our Almighty God, when He is going to look upon us, He'll say that I have a country whose leadership is focused in changing and transforming the life of their people. I wish everyone well, but let us be committed to transform our great country by the name Kenya. God bless us all. Thank you.
Very well there. That is Francis Moya, the member of County Assembly for Uasin Gishu County, Langas Ward, on our segment, The Leadership Profile, right here on the Mid-Morning Pack. I know we are coming to the close of this particular conversation for today, but before I bring in Engineer to give us the parting shot, I have one viewer here saying, whatever is birthed by prayers is maintained by prayers. CBC ilikuwa mpango mzuri ulioletwa na serikali yetu, lakini hawakuipa kipaumbele. Instead, walizama kwa campaign za 2022 wakasahau kuipanga vizuri. So whatever you're experiencing now is a confusion brought by our leaders in government. I've not gotten your name, but that is a comment there. But engineer, as we come to close, and I know Kagi also have your sign-off point. We've got, I mean, the country is watching.
Yes.
Kenyans had a lot of expectations.
Yes.
What is it that you think, therefore, that if the government is actually listening to Kenyans, what is it that it needs to put into place? Because again, the president saying that give us 6 more months. Are we seeing a situation where we will be told to give us 4 more years, 5 more years?
I think
for things actually to
run.
Yes.
I think number one, the government needs to be very clear. Needs to have temporary measures because we are in a crisis and we need to quickly resolve. Number two, I think we also need to have long-term goals as to what we need to achieve to ensure that this does not repeat itself. So quickly, let's import the maize, all right? Let's buy everything from our farmers. Let's sort the issue.
Let's tax everyone.
Let's tax everyone.
Even those who are in government.
Even those who are in government. Let's tax them because that's the oil that feeds the government. Number two, that's temporary. That's what needs to quickly be done. Number one, because our people are hungry.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for a hungry nation to grow because everybody else will be scrounging for whatever is available to feed themselves. So let's ensure that the population is fed.
Okay.
Even if you don't feed your house girl, they will eat chakula mtoto.
Yes.
So let's ensure that we feed our people. Quickly, temporary, long-term goal. Again, we need to ensure that we can produce such that we do not now depend with other countries, on other countries, to feed our nation. So what do we need to do to ensure that we get there? We need to map our country. What is the production we need to achieve per year? How many bags of maize, how many bags of beans do we need per year? Where our production beds? Is it Uasin Gishu? Is it in Tana? Is it in Nakuru? Where is it? We need to map it and identify. This is the place we expect this much. Secondly, we cannot over-depend on rain, which has failed us for the last 2 years, to produce again this year. Because if it has failed us for the last few years, it will fail us again.
Yes.
So what do we need to do to get water to grow? Can we sink boreholes? Is it possible to use irrigation? If we cannot irrigate for 9 months, is it possible to bring in some particular breeds that are short-term? Can we have beans or can we have potatoes produced via irrigation so our people can feed?
Wow.
Now, this is what we need to have the ministry discussing.
Engineer, you're pressed for time, but thank you so much. Kagi, maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah, maybe to mention that there was an information yesterday that we are going to experience again a high cost of electricity tariffs. So this one is going to spike more on various sectors in the economy.
Sure. And that is where we bring it to a close for today. Engineer Victor Ngatia, a political analyst and also a governance expert. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the Mid-Morning Park. And on behalf of the entire crew that has made today's show a success, continue enjoying the rest of your viewing. My name is Mangicho Mola.
And I am Paul Kagi. I wish you a blessed day ahead.